The first video is of the centurion. I want to tell you about something that occurred recently that I just can't get out of my mind. This is what happened. I was on duty at the house of the governor, Pontius Pilate, when another unit of soldiers brought in a man named Jesus. He was accused by the Jews of being a blasphemer because he claimed that he was the Son of God and King of the Jews. The Jewish religious leaders wanted to crucify this Jesus, and it seemed they hoped Pilate would approve the death penalty. Pilate questioned Jesus thoroughly and really could find no basis for the death penalty. But because the Jews were so angry and adamant, he finally gave in to their commands. This was the moment that I became personally involved. Pilate ordered my unit to take Jesus out to the place of execution. We should have taken him straight out, but some of the guys wanted to have a little fun with him and asked if we could take him to the courtyard of the army barracks. I saw no reason to deny them their fun, so we took this side trip. Once we were there, some soldiers began chanting, "Hail, King of the Jews!" Others brought a purple robe and put it on him. Then they handed him a reed as his scepter. One soldier suggested we make him a crown, and when his idea was hurrahed by the others, he ran to get several branches from a bramble bush and weaved them together to make a crown. He handed it to me, the commanding officer, and I pressed it on Jesus' head. As the whole company of men, maybe 300 or so, continued to shout, "Hail, King of the Jews!" some that were close to Jesus took the reed from his hand and began beating him on the head with it. I could see that this caused the crown of thorns to dig into his scalp. Other soldiers were spitting on him, and as blood and spittle ran down his face, still others of our company began to bow down to him, mocking his royalty. I began to feel that we should get on toward the place of execution, so I ordered my men to fetch Jesus' clothes. They removed the purple robe, put his tunic back on him, and we led him out to crucify him. When we arrived at Golgotha, the place of execution, we once again took Jesus' tunic, and some of the soldiers cast lots for it. One of my men nailed Jesus to the crossbar, and several raised him up on the tree and nailed him in place. Pilate had given us a sign to hang above his head that said, "Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews," and as people shouted curses and mocked him, I heard Jesus say, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." A few minutes later, at about noon, the sky suddenly went dark. Talk about strange. Complete darkness covered the land until 3 p.m. I was standing guard at the foot of Jesus' cross, and at about 3, I heard him cry out with a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me?" A few minutes later, I heard Jesus say, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." And then he died. The ground shook, and the sun brightened again in the sky. All of this was very eerie and sort of scary. But when I saw what happened to Jesus and heard the way he talked to God as his Father, well, that was the moment I believed that Jesus really is God's Son. Immediately, some of Jesus' followers asked for his body so that they could bury it before preparation of the Sabbath. A man named Joseph of Arimathea donated a never-used tomb, and they laid Jesus inside and rolled a heavy stone in front of the door. The next day, Pilate summoned me. It seems the Jewish religious leaders expected Jesus' followers to try to steal the body and claim Jesus had risen from the dead. They wanted a guard set in front of the tomb to protect it. So I and several of my men went to the tomb, where we took turns sleeping and keeping watch. Early Sunday morning, we were all awake when the ground began to shake like it had when Jesus died. That was scary enough, but suddenly a man dressed in dazzling white clothes appeared and started rolling the stone away from the door of the tomb. I don't know what happened next because I fainted with fright. Later, I learned that all the other soldiers had fainted as well. A couple of weeks later, I was with a crowd of people when Jesus appeared to us. He was alive. He had risen from the grave just as he said. Surely he is the Son of God.